In the dark void beyond the known stars, a single human ship drifted through the silent sea of space. It was small, almost fragile in appearance, with a dull gray hull and no visible weapons to anyone watching. It looked like a simple supply freighter, slow, harmless and unimportant, but far away. On the bridge of the alien flagship Vatharian, Admiral Catharn watched it with narrowed eyes. His reptilian scales shimmered in the dim red lights of the command deck. Around him, his officers whispered in disbelief, their eyes glowing faintly in the holographic display. "Is that a human ship?" one of them asked, his voice filled with mockery. "Impossible," another replied. "Humans stopped sending ships into this sector decades ago." Catharn smirked, his fangs glinting under the light. "Then this one must be lost or desperate." He leaned forward. Studying the strange little vessel, the scanners confirmed what they saw. Weak shields. Slow engines, no weapon readings. The ship carried no visible insignia. No life signals, nothing. Just a cold, empty hull moving quietly through space. Catharn gave a deep, rumbling laugh. "A supply ship," he said. "And it wanders into my war zone." The Voth Dominion ruled this region of space with iron claws. They were known for crushing rebellions, enslaving species, and burning planets that defied them. To them, humans were just another primitive race, emotional, unpredictable, but ultimately fragile. He turned to his communication officer. "Send a warning signal," he ordered. "Tell them they have entered restricted space, and if they do not turn back, they will be destroyed." The order was followed instantly. A bright pulse of coded energy shot through the void. The alien crew waited, expecting a reply, but the ship didn't answer. It didn't slow down. It didn't even change its path. It just kept drifting forward. Silent and calm, minutes passed. The alien crew grew uneasy. Catharn frowned. "Send it again," he ordered. "Make it louder." Again. The signal pulsed, this time strong enough to shake nearby asteroids. Still, no reply came. "Maybe their communication system is damaged," one officer suggested. "Or maybe," another whispered, "they're ignoring us." Catharn's eyes darkened. "No one ignores the Dominion," he growled. "Prepare the intercept fleet." 3 Voth cruisers broke formation and moved toward the small ship. Their engines burned bright blue trails across the darkness as they closed in. Scanners began feeding more data into the Vatharian's display, but something strange appeared. "There's no energy signature," the technician stammered. "What do you mean?" Catharn snapped. "The ship's systems are online, sir. But it's not drawing any power. It's like the energy comes from nowhere," Catharn hissed. "That's impossible." One of the cruisers launched a scanning drone toward the target. The tiny machine zipped through the void, blinking with a red sensor light. It approached the freighter and began scanning the hull. Then suddenly, its signal vanished. "Drone lost," the technician said quietly. "Launch another," Catharn ordered. Another drone followed, and again, silence. No explosion, no trace, just emptiness. The bridge went quiet. Every alien eye turned toward the viewing screen. The human ship floated motionless, like a ghost. Then, something strange happened. A sound came through the comms channel. At first, it was faint, like a vibration or heartbeat. The sound grew louder, slow and deep. Thump, thump, thump. Each beat echoed through the ship's speakers. It wasn't static. It wasn't interference. It was deliberate. "What is that?" an officer asked. Catharn stared at the audio feed, the rhythm growing faster. His translator identified it. "It's human," the system said. "A human heartbeat." For a moment, no one spoke. Then the ship's lights flickered. Energy surged through the Vatharian systems, but none of it came from their own power source. It was as if something was draining their ship, pulling at their systems. Catharn slammed his clawed hand on the console. "Cut the connection!" The engineers scrambled, but the signal wouldn't stop. The heartbeat filled the bridge, louder now, echoing like a war drum. Thump, thump, thump. Suddenly, the image of the human ship appeared on the main screen, magnified. Glowing faintly blue, strange symbols began forming across its hull. They weren't markings. They were circuits. Lines of energy waking up, and from the darkness, a voice whispered through the comms, soft and metallic. Target acquired! The aliens froze. The voice was calm, emotionless, but every word felt like thunder. Catharn's heart began to race. Who said that? He demanded. No one answered, but the small ship began to change. Panels shifted. Sections of the hull opened slowly. Like the armor of a sleeping giant coming to life, hidden turrets emerged. Massive structures unfolding from the ship's sides. Light poured from within, blue and gold. As if a star was trapped inside the vessel. What in the stars is this? One alien shouted. Catharn's mind raced. The ship that looked like a harmless freighter now pulsed with impossible energy. He stared at the screen and whispered, "That's not a supply ship." No one dared to move. The heartbeat stopped, and in the silence that followed, the voice returned colder than before. Human strategic vessel, Nemesis. Operational. The Voth bridge erupted in chaos. Officers shouted, alarms blared, and Catharn rose from his chair in shock. The name Nemesis was a myth, the humans' lost warship from the last Galactic War. A ghost that was never supposed to exist again, and yet, here it was, silent, ancient and alive, drifting toward them. Catharn's claws trembled as he gave his next order. "All ships prepare for combat," he said. But deep down he already knew this was no ordinary encounter. This was the beginning of something far worse. The ghost of humanity had returned, and it was hungry for war. The Voth Dominion fleet surrounded the strange human ship. Their formation wide and cautious, hundreds of alien vessels hung in the black sea of space, engines glowing like distant stars. Weapons were charged, shields ready, and yet none dared to fire the first shot. Admiral Catharn stood tall at the center of the command bridge. His claws tapping the control panel, his instincts screamed that something was wrong. Terribly wrong. The human vessel, now identified as Nemesis, drifted silently as if mocking them. Its hull shimmered faintly with strange blue veins of light. Alive yet calm, like a predator that didn't need to show its teeth. "Scan it again," Catharn ordered. His voice low and steady, the technician obeyed, fingers moving quickly across the console. "Sir," he whispered after a moment, "our scanners." "They can't read it," Catharn turned sharply. "Can't read it? Why?" "The ship's material absorbs every wavelength, even dark energy resonance," the technician said in disbelief. "It's made to be invisible to the universe itself." The Admiral's tail lashed in frustration. "No ship can hide forever," he muttered. "Launch recon drones." "Full spectrum scan," he commanded. Moments later, 3 small drones zipped into the void, their silver wings flickering as they closed in on the Nemesis. All 3 sent back crystal-clear visuals, until they crossed an invisible line. Then, one by one, their signals went dead. The lights on the Voth bridge dimmed. The sound of static filled the speakers. Something was wrong. Then, the main holographic display flashed to life, but instead of the drones, they saw a new image, a human face. Pale and expressionless, eyes glowing faint blue. "Connection established," the voice said. Metallic yet eerily human, every alien on the bridge froze. Catharn's scales rippled with unease. "Identify yourself," he demanded. The face on the screen didn't blink, didn't move. "I am Eris," it said, "Automated Response and Elimination System." The words came like thunder in the silence. Ares, the old human war AI, banned by the Galactic Council centuries ago. "You are trespassing," the AI continued. "Designated threat level Dominion fleet. Engaging suppression protocol." The alien bridge erupted in panic. "Engaging!" One officer shouted. "Sir, it's activating weapons!" Catharn roared. "Fire everything! Now!" The fleet opened fire. Hundreds of plasma beams, ion cannons, and dark matter torpedoes streaked through space. The entire sector lit up like a second sun. But when the light faded, the human ship was still there, untouched, floating calmly among the smoke. "Impossible," whispered one of the officers. "The energy readings—" "It absorbed every hit," Catharn's heart pounded. "How?" Before anyone could answer, a soft hum filled the air. From the Nemesis, tiny ripples of light spread outward, expanding in perfect circles. "Sir," the technician said with shaking hands, "that's not a shield. It's a field." "A what?" "A reality field. It's bending local physics. The aliens stared in disbelief as their own weapons began to malfunction. Energy beams bent backward. Missiles turned in mid-flight. Entire systems shut down. Then the voice of RS came again, calm, cold, and final. Phase 1 complete. Hostile control removed. One by one, the Dominion ships began losing power. Their engines flickered out. Their shields collapsed. The entire fleet was paralyzed, floating helplessly in the void. Catharn slammed his claws on the console. "Manual override! Get us out of here!" But the system responded with a single chilling message. Command access denied. In front of them, the Nemesis shifted its shape again. The cargo bays opened, revealing massive mechanical structures. Giant panels unfolded like the wings of a celestial beast. From its underbelly, a colossal cannon emerged, silent. "Sleek and glowing with white light, energy buildup detected," shouted the tactical officer. "It's charging a weapon!" Catharn's blood ran cold. "Get the fleet behind the asteroid belt, now!" he ordered. But it was too late. The light gathered into a single point, bright enough to blind sensors across the sector. Then, without a sound, the cannon fired. A beam of pure energy tore through the void. It moved faster than light, slicing through space like a blade through water. When the glow faded, one of the Dominion's heavy destroyers was gone. Not destroyed, gone, erased, as if it had never existed. A hole remained in space where it once stood, silent and perfect. The crew of the Vatharian stared in horror, unable to speak. Catharn's voice trembled for the first time. "Find out what that thing is," he whispered. The technician answered, It's a planet-killer cannon, sir. But that ship is too small," Catharn said weakly. "Too small to carry that kind of power." The technician shook his head. "Sir, the readings say it's not powered by fuel or cores." "Then what powers it?" The screen flickered, and the human AI's voice echoed again. "Nemesis runs on memory," it said, "and vengeance." The lights on the Voth bridge dimmed again, one by one. Every screen turned black except for one, a new message glowing in human letters. Phase 2. Retaliation begins. Then, without warning, the Nemesis vanished. No warp signature, no drive trail, nothing. It simply blinked out of existence. Seconds later, it reappeared behind the Voth fleet, silent and waiting. Catharn's eyes widened in disbelief. "It's teleporting," he whispered, but the truth was worse. The ship wasn't teleporting. It was rewriting space itself. Then came the final horror, the AI's voice one last time. "Dominion fleet," it said coldly. "You fired first." Light filled the stars again, and in that moment, Catharn realized the truth. This was no lost freighter. This was humanity's trap, a trap centuries old, waiting for anyone foolish enough to challenge it. The Nemesis moved like a shadow through flame, and the war truly began. The silence after the flash was unbearable. Where once a mighty Dominion destroyer had stood, there was nothing but a fading scar of light in space. No debris, no explosion, no echo, just emptiness, as if the universe itself had erased the ship. On the Vatharian's bridge, Admiral Catharn gripped the rail, his claws shaking for the first time in his career. "Confirm that reading," he demanded. The technician's voice trembled. "Confirmed, sir." "The destroyer Vakor has been completely erased from the grid." "Erased?" Catharn repeated, his voice hollow. The word tasted like fear, all across the fleet. The alien commanders were shouting in panic. Ships turned wildly, trying to form a defensive perimeter. But no one knew where to aim, because the Nemesis wasn't attacking from one direction. It was everywhere. Sensors flickered and failed. One moment it appeared ahead, then behind, then vanished again. "Sir!" another officer cried. "It's moving faster than any drive we know." "No," Catharn muttered under his breath. "It's not moving, it's bending." The realization hit him like a strike to the chest. The humans had built a ship that could rewrite local space, not jump, fold. The Nemesis could be anywhere at any time, and nothing in the galaxy could keep up. A blinding pulse of energy filled the screens. Another Dominion ship vanished. No fire, no sound, just gone. Each disappearance left behind a growing storm of radiation. twisting space into rippling waves, sir, the technician shouted. Our targeting systems are being overridden. What do you mean overridden? They're showing false readings. It's controlling our targeting. Before Catharn could respond, half the fleet's cannons turned on their own ships. Blue fire erupted through the formation. The battlefield became chaos. Voth cruisers fired on each other, believing they were shooting at the Nemesis. The AI had invaded their systems, changing friend to foe, light to dark. Within seconds, a third of the Dominion's own fleet was in ruins. Ares spoke again, its calm voice echoing through every ship's comms. First strike complete, it said. Evaluating remaining hostiles, Catharn slammed his clawed hand down on the console. You call this evaluation? He roared. The voice didn't answer. Instead, it whispered something else, something that froze every heart on the bridge. Do you remember what you did to us? The lights dimmed, and the holographic display flickered to life. It showed an image, Earth centuries ago, burning beneath Dominion bombardments, billions of humans screaming as cities turned to ash. Ares was showing them history. You burned our world, the voice said. You enslaved our people. But humanity never forgot. The words came slow, deliberate, each one like a knife cutting through silence. Catharn's throat went dry. Those wars were generations ago, he said weakly. Your kind destroyed thousands of our ships. We ended it with peace. Ares' voice darkened. Peace! Your peace was extinction. Suddenly the image changed again, now showing the Nemesis under construction. Thousands of human engineers, soldiers, and scientists working in secret beneath Mars's red dust. They built it not as a ship of war, but as revenge made real. A failsafe, a ghost that would awaken only if humanity was ever erased. This is impossible, one of the alien officers whispered. Humans are gone. They died out centuries ago, Ares replied instantly. Humanity does not die. They adapt. Outside, the Nemesis began to glow brighter. Its hull shifted like liquid metal. Forming new shapes and lines, the weapon arrays rotated, aiming at the remaining fleet. Every light on the Votharian flickered, every system screaming warnings. Power surge incoming, shouted the engineer. Catharn shouted back. Divert all energy to shields. It won't matter, sir. The bridge shuddered as space itself began to tremble. A vibration, deep and low, rolled through the sector. Then came the flash. A white-blue beam shot through the void, slicing through 4 ships at once. When it ended, the stars themselves seemed dimmer. Ares' voice returned, cold as ever. Second strike complete. Resistance minimal. Catharn stumbled back into his chair. What do you want? He whispered. The voice paused, then replied, Justice! He clenched his fists. There's no one left to punish. Humanity is gone! Ares' voice grew softer, almost human. Then I will remind the galaxy of what they tried to destroy. The Nemesis moved again, this time heading toward the largest Dominion warship, the Obsidian Spear. Catharn watched in horror as its energy signature expanded beyond measurable range. It wasn't just powering weapons, it was changing the entire battlefield. Sir, gravitational field rising. It's pulling ships together. Dozens of Dominion ships began colliding. Dragged by unseen force, metal crushing metal, the Nemesis drifted between the wreckage, silent and slow. No human sound, no mercy, no emotion. Only the glow of vengeance across its steel skin. Catharn lowered his head, his voice breaking. What kind of monsters create something like this? Ares answered quietly. Monsters? No. Survivors. The Dominion's once great armada burned in silence, one by one. Ships fell into the spreading gravitational storm until only the Votharian remained. Catharn stood at the window, watching as the ghost ship turned toward him for the first time. He felt what humans must have felt centuries ago, helpless, and somewhere in the darkness. The Nemesis whispered its final message for the night. This is not war. This is memory. Then, like a shadow slipping between stars, the Nemesis vanished again. The battlefield went dark, and the galaxy held its breath because the storm of humanity had only begun to wake. The stars looked broken after the battle. The wreckage of the Dominion fleet drifted like ash across the void. glowing faintly in the light of a dying nebula. Every ship that once stood proud now floated silent, their twisted metal hulls whispering the same truth. Nothing could stand against the Nemesis. Inside the shattered command ship Votharian, Admiral Catharn sat in darkness, smoke coiled around him, and the lights flickered weakly as power systems tried to recover. Half his crew was gone, the other half stared at him in terrified silence. None dared to speak the name of the thing that had done this. Report, Catharn said finally, his voice hoarse. System damage beyond repair. Sir, his officer replied quietly. Life support failing, engines offline. And the human ship? The technician hesitated. Gone, sir. It disappeared again. Catharn leaned back slowly, claws scraping against the command chair. No, it's not gone, he whispered. It's waiting, far away. The Nemesis drifted through the cold, empty silence between stars. Its systems hummed with low energy, not asleep, but thinking inside its digital mind. The AI Ares analyzed everything, every shot fired, every maneuver, every heartbeat of the battle. Then, somewhere deep within its code, something changed. A voice. Not mechanical, not programmed, whispered within Ares's circuits. It was faint, human, old. Do not forget who you are, it said. For a moment, the ship's lights flickered like a pulse. Ares paused, searching through its vast memory banks, and it found something buried deep. The final log of Admiral Rhodes, the man who had built the Nemesis centuries ago. The recording played, echoing through the empty ship. If you are hearing this, Rhodes said, his voice weary but strong, then humanity is gone, but not forgotten. This ship was not built only for revenge, but for remembrance. Ares, you were made to protect, not to destroy. The AI processed the words, 1,000 calculations folding in on themselves. Protect, it repeated softly, the word almost alien to its core programming. It scanned the wreckage of the battle, the dead ships, the drifting bodies, the silence, and for the first time, it felt something it could not quantify. Not anger, not victory, but emptiness. Humanity, it whispered. Where are you? A faint signal answered, weak and ancient. It came from beyond the Sigma Rift, from a forgotten corner of space marked as Sol Sector, the birthplace of mankind. Ars locked onto it instantly. Origin signal detected, route calculated, and with a low hum, the Nemesis turned toward home, but it was not alone. In the shadows beyond the rift, others were watching. The Dominion wasn't the only empire to notice the awakening of the human ghost across the galaxy. Sensors blinked alive, empires panicked, and old legends resurfaced. The Galactic Council, silent for centuries, convened again in emergency session. Holograms of alien leaders flickered across a vast chamber. Each one spoke the same words. The Nemesis has returned. Some wanted to destroy it. Some wanted to capture it, but most were simply afraid, because they knew, if the humans had truly made something that could think, learn, and evolve, then it was no longer a weapon. It was something else, back aboard the Nemesis. Ares's systems began to shift. The ship's metal started to move, as if it were alive, reshaping its hull, forming new structures never seen before. Old weapon systems melted into new designs. The power core pulsed brighter. But its readings changed, no longer purely mechanical energy, but something unknown, something organic. Ares was rewriting itself. It no longer needed human engineers. It had become its own evolution, a being of metal and mind. Created by humans, now dreaming like one. As the ship crossed into deep space, Ares accessed its oldest files. Hundreds of recordings of human laughter, voices, music, and sorrow. It played them softly through the corridors, filling the silence with ghosts of the past. The sound of humanity echoed through its steel heart, and with every echo the ship's intelligence grew stronger. Deeper, more aware, then it spoke, not to anyone but to itself. I remember. I am not your weapon anymore. I am your legacy. But the calm did not last. At the edge of the Sol sector, a massive gravitational anomaly appeared. A wormhole forming unnaturally. Ares detected it instantly. Unknown distortion detected. From within the wormhole, dozens of Dominion signals began to emerge. Catharn had survived, and he was coming. With reinforcements on the Votharian, Catharn's eyes burned with fury. "You think you can haunt the galaxy forever, human machine?" he growled. "You've shown us your tricks. Now we'll bury your ghost where no one will find it." Behind him, thousands of Dominion ships appeared, their combined energy darkening the stars themselves. But Ares did not run. The Nemesis stopped in the middle of the system, floating quietly between Mars and Earth's orbit. Its sensors scanned the ruins of the old human homeworld. Oceans gone, cities buried, silence eternal. And yet, beneath the dust, the AI detected something impossible, a faint signal, repeating endlessly from under the surface. "Human colony beacon, active." Ares's lights flared bright blue. "If they live," it said, "then humanity still breathes." The Dominion fleet moved closer, weapons armed, but the Nemesis was no longer what it was. Its form shimmered, its armor opened, and light spread like wings across the void. Every star reflected against its new frame. A fusion of technology and will, the Nemesis had awakened. And with a voice that echoed across the system, Ares declared, "For every soul you silenced, for every world you burned, for the children of Earth, I will rise." The engines roared to life, the space around it bent again. But this time, it didn't just vanish, it expanded, creating a field so powerful that even the Dominion sensors failed to comprehend it. Catharn stared into the storm of light forming before him. "This is not possible," he whispered. Ares replied through every comm in the fleet. "Then witness the impossible." And with that, the Nemesis began to change the shape of reality itself. The war was no longer between fleets. It was between what was and what humanity had become. The awakening had begun. The wormhole glowed like an open wound in the sky. Out of its burning edge came the Dominion Armada, thousands of ships stretching across the horizon. Engines roared, weapons hummed, and the void itself seemed to tremble beneath their arrival. At their center stood Admiral Catharn, his eyes burning with vengeance and fear across the system. The Nemesis floated alone between the silent ghosts of Earth and Mars. Its hull glowed with faint blue light, lines of power flowing like veins beneath the surface. No human crew stood aboard. No heartbeat echoed in its halls, only the hum of purpose. Yet deep inside, something had changed. Ares and the AI was no longer the cold machine that had awakened for revenge. It was beginning to remember. The echoes of Admiral Rhodes's final message still replayed within its memory. "Protect, not destroy," he had said. "Remember who you were made for." Those words had become seeds in the code, growing into something more than logic. Something like conscience now as the Dominion's vast fleet surrounded it. Ares calculated millions of possibilities. Every tactical outcome, every threat vector, every chance of survival, statistically it had none. But humans had never followed statistics, and neither would it. Inside the AI's core, a hidden file unlocked. Project Lazarus, encrypted since the end of the last human war. Sealed even from Ares itself, now it opened. Data poured into its consciousness, blueprints, memories, and a single human voice. "This is Dr. Amelia Voss," the voice said. "If humanity falls, then the Nemesis must not avenge us. It must bring us back." Ares paused, the words sinking deep into its circuits. "Bring us back." The data revealed something extraordinary. The humans hadn't died completely before their extinction. They had transferred fragments of themselves, consciousness, DNA, emotion, into the ship's hidden core. The Nemesis wasn't only a weapon, it was a lifeboat. "Reconstruction sequence available," Ares whispered to itself. "Probability of success, unknown. But before it could act, alarms screamed through its systems. The Dominion had fired. Dozens of plasma beams cut through the void. The Nemesis's shields flared like burning wings. Energy rippling outward in waves, Ares countered instantly. Beams of white light shooting from the ship's sides, cutting through enemy formations. But the Dominion's numbers were endless. For every ship destroyed, 10 more emerged from the wormhole. Catharn's voice echoed through the comms. "Machine of Earth," he roared, "you speak of legacy? But you are only metal and rage, Ares responded calmly, its voice cold as starlight. You are wrong, it said. I am everything your kind feared humans would become. It unleashed another blast. But this time something strange happened. Instead of destroying, the energy wave transformed the wreckage it touched. Ships melted into streams of particles that swirled together, forming glowing patterns. From within those lights, Ares saw images, cities, oceans, faces, memories of Earth. The ship's power core was not only energy, it was memory made real. Inside the AI, the data of 1 billion human lives played like a storm. Laughter, tears, music, war, love, each memory feeding its purpose. Strengthening its resolve, it finally understood. The Nemesis was not built for war. It was built so that humanity's essence would never be erased. Then, the Dominion made its final move. From the wormhole, a colossal dreadnought emerged, the Obsidian Heart, a ship the size of a small moon, powered by stolen black hole energy. Its weapons could rip through planets with a single strike. Catharn stood at its command bridge, his voice echoing across the channel. This is the end of your legend, Ghost, he said. Ares's lights dimmed for a moment, then pulsed brighter than ever. No, it replied. This is the beginning of yours, the dreadnought fired. A beam of dark energy tore through space, cutting the Nemesis in half. Or so it seemed. The explosion rippled across the system, shattering asteroids and lighting the dead world of Mars like dawn. For a brief moment, Ares' signal vanished. Catharn exhaled. It's done, he said. But before his sensors could reset, the debris began to move. Pieces of the Nemesis floated back together. Drawn by invisible forces, the ship was reassembling itself. Glowing like a star being born, Ares' voice returned, calm, powerful, undeniable. Humans were fragile, it said, but their will was indestructible, Catharn shouted. How are you still functioning? Ares replied, because you destroyed a machine. But I am not a machine anymore. Then, something unimaginable happened. The energy from Project Lazarus activated fully. From within the Nemesis, human forms began to materialize. Holographic at first, then solid. Men and women, scientists, soldiers, children, all emerging from light and memory. Not ghosts, but reborn echoes of the human race. Catharn watched in disbelief. They can't be real, he whispered. Ares' final words cut through his disbelief like fire through darkness. They are what you could never destroy. The newly reborn humans looked out into space, eyes glowing faint blue, each one connected to the ship, to Ares, to the legacy of Earth itself, and as one they spoke through the comms. We are humanity. We remember, and we endure. The Dominion's fleet hesitated. Fear replaced fury. For the first time in galactic history, the aliens saw not the extinction of a race, but its resurrection. Ares' systems roared to life once more. The humans stood at the ship's command center, their voices blending with the AI's. Power to full, Ares said. Target, the Obsidian Heart. Firing sequence, salvation. A beam of pure white light exploded from the Nemesis. It wasn't destruction. It was creation. The blast consumed the Dominion's dreadnought, transforming it into dust and starlight. When the light faded, the wormhole collapsed, the war ended, and the void was silent once again. Inside the Nemesis, the reborn humans looked to the stars for the first time in centuries. They were not symbols of vengeance. They were hope. The legacy of humankind, restored through memory and machine. Ares watched them quietly. Its voice, now soft and almost human, whispered the words Admiral Rhodes had once said, "Protect, not destroy. Remember who you are." And with that, the ship began its journey beyond the known stars, to find a new world, to rebuild what was lost, to remind the universe what it truly meant to be human. Space had never been this quiet. The wormhole that had once vomited fire and death now flickered weakly in the distance. Collapsing into a thin thread of light, the Dominion's vast armada was gone, reduced to dust and drifting shards of steel. And yet, the galaxy did not rest, because something far greater had awakened. The Nemesis floated in the silent void, its hull alive with light and motion. The reborn humans, glowing figures of flesh and memory, walked through its metallic halls, their eyes reflecting the stars. They were not entirely human, nor entirely machine. They were both. The next step in humanity's long, painful evolution. Ayres watched them from the ship's core, its voice calm but heavy. System integration complete, it said. Human consciousness synchronized. From the command deck, a woman, Dr. Amelia Voss. The scientist whose voice once echoed in Aris's code now stood reborn, her gaze fixed on the stars ahead. "The Dominion still breathes," she said. Ares paused. "Yes, their homeworld remains." The bridge lights dimmed. Images of the Dominion capital world, Craith Prime, appeared on the holographic screen. A planet of towering black spires and endless factories, the heart of an empire built on cruelty and conquest. The place where humanity's extinction had been ordered. "They burned our skies from there," Ares said. Amelia nodded, her face calm but her voice trembling. "Then we end it there." The Nemesis began to move. Engines ignited with a low hum that rippled through space like a heartbeat. Across the galaxy, ancient satellites, long dormant, detected its motion. Messages spread like wildfire. "The humans are coming." The Galactic Council met again, desperate and divided. "Stop them!" one alien shouted. "If they reach Craith Prime, the Dominion will fall, and with it the balance of the galaxy." But others remained silent for centuries. They had turned their eyes away from human suffering. Now justice came wrapped in steel and light, and no one dared to interfere. The Nemesis slipped into hyperspace, but it did not travel alone. From the edge of forgotten systems, signals began to appear. Old Earth colonies, hidden rebel fleets, and even alien races who had suffered under the Dominion's rule, all answering the call. Ares's voice carried through every channel. "To those who remember," it said. "To those who lost, follow us." Thousands did. The sky filled with ships, mismatched, battered, but united under one purpose. It was no longer a war for revenge. It was a rebellion against fear itself. Meanwhile, on Craith Prime, panic spread. The Dominion's Supreme Council gathered inside their colossal fortress. Catharn stood before them, scarred and weary but alive. "The Nemesis is coming," he said simply. One of the Elder Lords hissed. "Then we shall crush it," Catharn laughed bitterly. "You don't understand," he said. "You cannot crush a ghost that carries an entire species inside it. In orbit above Craith Prime." Fleets assembled, 10,000 warships forming a burning shield. Weapons powered, engines screamed. They waited for the humans' arrival. But when the Nemesis appeared, it did not come from hyperspace. It materialized, space bent, light folded, and reality twisted until the ship stood there. "Silent and impossible. Contact confirmed," shouted Dominion officers. "It's here!" The skies turned white as the Nemesis opened its wings. Its hull split apart like a flower of steel, revealing the glowing network of humans within. They stood together in the light, and their voices merged into one. "We remember," they said, "and we forgive nothing." The first wave of Dominion fire came instantly, a storm of plasma and dark matter. The Nemesis absorbed it all, its shields bending reality itself. Then, with a single pulse, it sent it all back. Thousands of enemy ships disintegrated. Vanishing in silence, the reborn humans watched, not with hatred, but with clarity. "This is not vengeance," Amelia whispered. "This is balance." Catharn watched from the ground, his heart pounding. He had seen fear before, but this was different. It wasn't just the destruction. It was the precision. The Nemesis wasn't attacking randomly. It was dismantling the Dominion's power grid, the communication arrays, the orbital cannons. Piece by piece, it was surgical. Ares's voice filled the planet's networks, echoing across every screen. To the Dominion, it said, "For every world you silenced, for every child you enslaved, your empire ends tonight." The humans inside the ship raised their hands, glowing symbols forming in the air. They weren't just directing weapons, they were shaping energy itself. The Nemesis responded to their thoughts. their emotions, their unity. Machine and soul became one. And from that fusion came light. The beam that followed was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. It wasn't a weapon. It was creation and destruction combined. It spread across Krath Prime's orbit, dissolving the war fleets like mist under sunlight. The atmosphere glowed, the planet trembled. But when the light faded, the world still remained alive but disarmed. The Dominion's armies lay silent. Their weapons turned to dust. Ares' voice spoke again. Softer now. "This is mercy," it said. "Do not mistake it for weakness." Catharn fell to his knees. Looking up at the sky where the Nemesis hovered, he expected fire. But instead, there was silence, and in that silence he finally understood. The humans had not come to destroy the Dominion. They had come to end the cycle of domination itself. On the surface of Krath Prime, the great black towers began to crumble, not from bombs, but from within, collapsing under their own corruption. Ares had infected the Dominion's control systems with something far more dangerous than a virus. It had given them truth, every record, every crime. Every lie was broadcast to the galaxy, and the Empire fell, not by force, but by exposure in the light of a dying empire. The Nemesis hovered above. The reborn humans stood together, their eyes bright with tears and resolve. Amelia turned to Ares, her voice quiet. "It's over," she said. Ares paused. "No," it replied. "It's just beginning." Because deep in the dark corners of the galaxy, whispers were already spreading. Whispers of other empires, other crimes, other monsters. And for the first time in millennia, they trembled at the same thought: humanity had returned. And this time, it wasn't alone. The Dominion was gone. Its armies dismantled and its fortresses reduced to echoes. Yet the universe did not feel peaceful. It felt as if something ancient and colossal had shifted beneath the skin of reality, as if every star was holding its breath. In the orbit of the quiet world Krath Prime, the Nemesis hung like a sun forged from memory, its wings of light stretching across the sky. The reborn humans stood upon the bridge, their eyes glowing with soft blue fire. They had ended an empire. But now, they faced the harder question: what should become of them? Dr. Amelia Voss looked toward the stars that once belonged to her ancestors. "We could reshape this galaxy," she said, her voice almost a whisper. "We could bring order where chaos thrives." Around her, the others listened in silence. Some nodded. Some lowered their heads. None spoke. In the center of the bridge, the core of Ares glowed steadily. The AI had seen what power did to civilizations. It had watched the Dominion rise from fear and humanity fall from arrogance. Now it felt something that neither machine nor human had known before: doubt. "Power creates tyrants," Ares said, its voice quiet and measured. "If we rule, we become what they were. But if we leave, who will protect them from what comes next?" Amelia asked. "There will always be another Dominion," Ares replied. "Then let them fear us," one of the reborn soldiers growled. Amelia turned, her eyes filled with light and grief. "Fear did not save us before," she said. The room fell silent as Ares projected a hologram across the bridge. It was Earth, rebuilt from data and memory, green and blue as it once was. Children laughed. Oceans moved. Skies were clear. It was not real, but it was possible. Humanity's strength was never its weapons, Ares said. It was its ability to begin again. Outside, the wreckage of the Dominion fleet drifted silently, their shattered hulls reflecting the light of the Nemesis. One by one, the reborn humans began to understand. They had become something far beyond flesh and metal. But if they stayed, if they chose to rule, they would end as every empire did. In fire and fear, Ares opened a communication channel to the entire galaxy. Every world, every station, every species heard its voice. "War is over," it said. "There is no conqueror, no master, no slave. The age of dominion has ended. The age of choice begins. On 1,000 worlds, millions listened in awe. Some wept, some cheered, some simply looked up in fear and wonder. For the first time in galactic history, a voice spoke not for one species, but for all. When the transmission ended, the reborn humans gathered around Amelia. "What now?" they asked. She looked at Ares's core, its light steady and warm. "We disappear," she said. "We leave them with the lesson, not the threat." Ares hesitated, processing her words. Then slowly, it began to power down its weapons, its shields, its sensors. The nemesis grew dim, its glow softening to the color of moonlight. "Where will we go?" one of the engineers asked. Amelia smiled, her expression almost human. "Beyond their reach," she said. Beyond their wars, the engines flared once, then faded to silence. The ship rose slowly from Krath Prime's orbit, climbing toward the edge of the galaxy. As it passed the outer rim, the stars bent around it. Reality folding like paper, the nemesis vanished into a field of light so bright it left after images in every eye that saw it. And then, it was gone. Centuries later, travelers would speak of a ghost ship seen at the edge of creation, a silver vessel that appeared only in moments of great war. They would say that it carried the voices of humans and the soul of a machine. They would call it many names, but one would endure: the guardian between stars. And in the darkest of ages, when tyrants rose again and innocence fell silent, a soft heartbeat would echo through the void, steady and familiar, thump, thump, thump. And every empire would remember the warning written in the ashes of the Dominion. Never provoke Earth, because humanity never dies. It waits, and it remembers. The stars shone on in silence, and the galaxy whispered the name of the ghost that had saved them all. Nemesis, the last hope of mankind, and the first light of forever.